welcome to Simps, Sands, and Superheroes. My name is Chandler, and I'm joined by my beautiful co-host,
Sammy Marie.
And today we are going to be doing some top 10 Star Wars character discussions. Both of us got a list put together. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So, yeah, let's just, hop right into the episode real quick. Is there anyone on your list or anyone that, you really wanted to put on your list that you just couldn't find a spot for?
Yeah, definitely a couple people.
Like who?
Kira, Chewbacca,
okay.
Chopper.
Chopper, really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have expected him to even be considered for your list, to be honest.
He's my favorite of the droids.
Of all the droids in all of Star Wars, Chopper is your favorite. He's a war criminal.
Exactly. He's ready to fuck someone up.
Okay, then.
Do it for the plot.
All right, well, that being said, let's get to these lists. What is your number 10?
Andor. Cassian.
Andor?
Yes.
For real?
Yeah, he had to be on the list. His story was one of the wildest in all of the Disney Plus series, and he just never takes anything lying down. He fought every step of the way, no matter what was thrown at him, and up until his last, I don't want to say mission, but his last thing he tried to do in his movie, from the show to the movie, he kept fighting back.
Yeah, I can respect that. Yeah, he did. I didn't even have him in my honorable mentions, to be honest.
Really? I can't wait for season 2.
I'm excited for season 2, but there's just so many more interesting characters in Star Wars. Andor is just kind of bland in comparison.
I would argue that he has one of the best endings in all of Star Wars.
Oh, where he dies?
No, the shot of his ending was so cinematic. Him and I forget what her name was, but that girl that I really liked from the
Jyn Erso?
Yes, Jyn Erso. They, the last shot of them together sitting as, I think it was the planet exploded, right?
Yeah,
but it
or
looked
blowing
like a
up.
sunset. Yeah, mm-hmm. But it looked like the sun was setting, and, it was so cinematic.
Yeah. All right, well, I guess, my number 10 is Din Djarin, the Mandalorian.
He's your number 10?
Yeah. I really like Din Djarin. I wanted to have him higher, but Star Wars is full of so many interesting characters that I just couldn't justify putting him above everyone else above him on my list. I'm assuming he's on your list?
He's on my list. He's number 7 on my list.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is he so high on your list? It's not too far off, but...
He's single dad goals. He's baby. I love that, Andor, he never stays knocked down for long. He's willing to do whatever it takes to get shit done.
Yeah. I
love the characters that aren't afraid to fuck somebody up.
He has some of the best, character development in Star Wars, for sure. Going from, a ruthless bounty hunter to a surrogate father.
Yes.
I want to say,
dad goals.
Grogu is also on my, honorable mentions part of my list. I like Grogu, but I couldn't put him on the list.
Personally, I believe that him and Mando are a package deal. I think they should both get to count as my number 7.
Yeah, well, you know what?
Mando wouldn't have become who he became if it wasn't for Grogu.
I agree, and I will let you have both characters on your list if you'll do the same for me when I get to a certain character higher in my list.
It's going to be Anakin and Vader.
No, first of all, pause. Yes, we are going to consider Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader as separate characters on this list because, let's face it, they are two completely different acting characters. Two completely different eras and everything, but that's not who I'm thinking of. I did separate them in my mind, but there is a character on my list that is part of a duo, and I couldn't decide which one to put on my list, and I couldn't justify having them both.
I know what it is.
Yeah, but we'll get there when we get there. So yeah, Din Djarin's my number 10. He's your number 7. Let's move on to your number 9.
Zeb.
Zeb.
Zeb Aurelius.
Zeb Aurelius from Rebels. Okay.
Yes. I love how he immediately tried to get rid of a kid.
Yeah.
He immediately was like, fuck this bitch. Get him off my ship. Get him out of my room. He just immediately wanted poor Ezra fucking gone. He did not feel any remorse. And then obviously, he comes around. They become friends by the end of it. He takes nobody's shit. He does not give a fuck about what's really going on. Other than, when he has to.
Yeah. To be fair, Ezra was kind of an asshole in that first season, especially.
Ezra's a little shithead all the time. Ezra's always a little shithead.
Season 4, Ezra was pretty good, you know.
He's still a shithead.
I guess.
I love Zeb's enemies to lovers romance with Callus. I think that was how you say his name, Callus.
Callus, yeah.
Yeah, even the voice actors ship them, which is the funniest shit. Like, they love fan art of them. I think that's so cute. Like, the whole episode of when they're trapped on the ice planet solidified Zeb a place on my list, because it's just so fun. It's so cute how he turns into, like, this teddy bear who actually tries to keep Callus alive.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Zeb's a great guy. I can't wait. I really hope we get to see him in the upcoming season of The Mandalorian, or at least in the Mandoverse movie. But
I really thought we were going to get him in Ahsoka. I was really disappointed.
Yeah, it was disappointing.
The way that they showed him in...
At least we got a cameo.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't in Ahsoka, though. The cameo
no, it was in Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's because he was supposed to... I'm pretty sure he was supposed to be in the like...
canceled show.
The canceled show. I can't remember the name of it right now, but yeah, we'll Google it later. All right. I guess we'll move on to my number 9, which is Qui-Gon Jinn.
Okay.
Okay.
He wasn't around for long.
Yeah, obviously not. Quickly. But it's... Qui-Gon Jinn is such an interesting character because he has so little screen time. You know, he only appears in The Phantom Menace, which, you know, unfortunately it's like one of the worst of the Star Wars movies in my opinion, but he's such an interesting character because his impact is felt amongst, like, the impact of his death and his legacy is felt in the Jedi Order for a long time. And especially also, like... Maul's legs. Yeah. Yikes. I'm pretty sure Obi-Wan was the one that cut him in half, not Qui-Gon.
Because of that.
Yeah, well, yeah, it was because of that, but still, like, I think people, you know, if you haven't seen Clone Wars, then you don't know that Qui-Gon is the one that taught Yoda how to project into a Force ghost. Yeah. You know, he was the first Jedi to sort of pioneer that sort of era of, you know, Force wielding, and his teachings of the Jedi way, like, he was one of the last true Jedi that wasn't, like, corrupt and exemplifying the way the Jedi Order had become a political faction by the end of the prequels. And I think, you know, that era of Jedi being respectable individuals ended with Qui-Gon Jinn's death, and that's why he's at my number 9.
Yeah, I mean, I see that. I think Anakin's storyline would have gone a lot differently if Qui-Gon had been the one able to train him.
I agree.
And that's no bad on poor Obi-Wan, but just, Qui-Gon would have protected him from Palpatine, I feel like, in ways that Obi-Wan failed. Yeah.
I don't think Qui-Gon would have fallen for the Sith shrouding that, you know, he would have figured it out fast. Like, if he were still alive, I feel like they probably would have had a better chance at figuring out Sidious's plot before it was too late.
Yeah. For sure, I think.
All right. And then who is your number 8?
Rex.
Captain Rex.
My favorite clone.
Nice.
My baby. I'm so disappointed that he was left out of the Ahsoka series, just like Zeb. Because,
Same.
like, their friendship, Rex and Ahsoka's, was one of the most, like, heartwarming things that we got to watch develop throughout Clone Wars. And he deserves the absolute world. And I'm just really disappointed that we only got to see, like, the last glimpses we got of him was in Rebels.
Yeah.
And it's really disappointing to not see that he never got to settle down. He never got to, like, have that moment of peace. He was still fighting in Rebels, and now where the fuck is he? Is he dead? Probably. They age quicker.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. He's probably dead, but, like...
It is canon that he fought in the Battle of Endor at the end of Episode 6 with Hera, so... I mean, maybe we'll at least get some information of, you know, maybe we'll get to see him in that era of, you know, the, like, Mandoverse era. Yeah. But, you know, I'm not going to get my hopes up. I will say Captain Rex is on my list. He's my number 5. Okay. And, you know, for the same reasons, Rex, you know, for him to stand out so much among literal millions of clones that are exactly the same as someone that's an incredible... Well, they're genetically exactly the same, you know? And he stands out amongst all of them as one of the best leaders, the most... and one of the most charismatic of them all. And, you know, he's very clearly a step above most of the other clones. And just the terms of how much he develops as a person throughout the series.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right. Do you have anything else to say about Captain Rex?
No.
My number 8, and this is where we're going to go back to what I was saying earlier, is R2-D2. I really wanted to include C-3PO on this list as well, because I feel like him and R2-D2 are sort of a package deal.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to take up 2 spaces on my list for those 2 characters, so I just went with the one I like a little bit more, and that's R2.
R2.
Yeah. Just because, I mean, he's so funny, and I love characters that are, like, also helpful to the story. You know, R2 is always, when he's involved, he's always competent. He's not, complete opposite of C-3PO, where he's helpful.
A hindrance.
Yeah, but he's, a hindrance at the same time. And also, R2 is just so sassy, and it's hilarious.
That's fair. I don't have either one on my list.
Really?
Yeah.
Dang.
I don't have any OG people on my list.
You don't have any original? You literally don't have a single
like
original?
The original.
Oh my god.
You won't find a Honda or a Leia over here.
Well, there's a specific character that is in the original trilogy that if is not on your list, I'm gonna be upset. All right. Let's move on quickly from that. What's your number 7?
My number 7 is Mando. We already talked about him.
Okay, cool. So I guess we'll move on to my number 7, which is Darth Maul.
Okay, Maul is... Yep, he's on mine too.
He's on your list?
Yeah, you go ahead and talk.
All right. Yeah, so, I mean, Darth Maul, talk about someone that exemplifies using your hate and anger to, drive yourself forward. Nobody exemplifies the aspect of the dark side, using the dark side of the Force, being channeled with your emotions and your hatred, is shown so well in Maul. And let's not forget that he also provided us the best lightsaber battle in all of Star Wars with another character that's higher on my list. And every scene that he's in, you feel the tension and the anger from him, and I love how interesting and complex his story is, and that it didn't just end with him being some big brute bad guy like it could have.
Yeah. Personally, I want a series of... So for me, he's my number 5.
Okay.
He takes up my number 5 spot. I want a series of him and his reign over the crime syndicate, especially when Cora... I think that's how the fuck you say it. Kira. How when she comes to, take over after she kills the guy that Vision plays. What was his name?
I don't remember. Okay. I don't remember what Paul Bettany's character's name. I don't think anyone does.
That's rude. But anyway, I want a series of, or a movie or anything of Kira coming to work for Maul and running this crime syndicate. He's one of those people where he's terrifying but also intriguing, and he almost gives off he's soulless. He gladly gave his soul to the dark side. He has no regrets, but he's soulless, not senseless. And in my opinion, he shares a similar energy to the Joker in that you never know what he's gonna do next. But unlike the Joker, he thinks out his plans, and he actually has the big picture in mind. He's not just trying to lure someone to him. He wants to take over. He wants a hand on the wheel. He wants to be, he wants to be the big bad. He wants to be in control, and no amount of power is enough.
Yeah.
So I really like that about him, because every move he makes is calculated.
I agree.
In my opinion, he's the second best villain overall, aside from Vader. Vader's number 1, he's number 2.
I completely, especially agree with that. And even in some cases, I think you could make the argument that Maul is, one of the best fictional villains of all time, just because he's so well written and everything he does is so well thought out and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Let's wrap up there with Darth Maul and move on to your number 6.
My number 6 is Obi-Wan.
Obi-Wan. All right.
Is he on your list?
Yes, Obi-Wan is also on my list, and he is number 4. Now, before you get started, I just want to say, you said you had no original trilogy characters on your list.
I think of
He's
him
in the
as
original trilogy.
I think of him as Ewan McGregor. I don't think of the old man.
Okay, do not disrespect Sir Alec McGuinness.
Okay. There are 2 separate people to me. I do not think of them in the same box. It's very hard for me to look at those 2 and think of them as the same character. I'm much more attached to Ewan McGregor's and to the animated series version.
Okay, I completely agree, but that does not make him.
Okay,
Ewan McGregor is Obi-Wan to me. Mm-hmm. That does not make him any less Obi-Wan in the original trilogy. But okay, that's Ben Kenobi.
Yeah, that's Ben. That's a different bitch.
So what do you like about Obi-Wan?
It hurts to have him so low. Like, it hurts to put him at number 6, but I'm just so much more obsessed with the other people that I had to rank higher. But his fight with Vader specifically in the Kenobi series will never not make me cry. It's so monumental to watch Obi-Wan hear Vader say, "You didn't kill Anakin Skywalker, I did." And the fact that Anakin was able to give him that sliver of peace to hold on to for the following decades is just the most heartbreaking but also like healing thing in the world. And my favorite thing about Obi-Wan is just he's so fucking witty. Everything he says and everything he does, like he's unintentionally funny, it feels like, you know?
Oh yeah.
And when Satine dies in the Clone Wars series, you can like just feel the weight of his regret in that scene when he's like holding her, of like not walking away.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he gives Anakin and Padme, like, he knows. We all know he knows.
Absolutely he knows.
But he let them have that because he knew that part of that was, I think, letting Anakin hold on to his humanity.
Yeah.
That kept him on, like, a tight rein. And, like, he didn't want to, you know, be Anakin's mentor. And it definitely aged him about 20 years from all the stress of dealing with that little shit. But he still did the best he could.
Yeah. And I think you can really tell how much that is, you know, clearly he knew the situation with Anakin and Padme, and you can really tell by the end of the series how much it weighs on him, whether or not, like, the thought of, did he do the right thing by allowing it to happen? Yeah. You know, because obviously the Jedi teach you not to give into emotions like that. And, you know, it explores the topic of, you know, if Obi-Wan had intervened, could he have saved Anakin from going to the dark side? Probably not, but it's just an interesting thought experiment.
I don't think if he intervened with the relationship, I think that would have only pushed Anakin further. I think someone should have protected him. And I think Obi-Wan's biggest failure is not protecting him from fucking Palpatine. But I have a bigger rant for later about that.
That is, I feel like that's on the entire Jedi Order, though. That's definitely not on Obi-Wan. And something that I love about Obi-Wan is that if in some of the novelizations, you sort of learn that Palpatine viewed Obi-Wan as the only real threat to his plan.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely, I would argue, one of the strongest of the Jedi.
Yeah, and Obi-Wan was not, like... What I love about him is that he's not physically talented or, like, physically gifted in his abilities, but he's so hardworking and dedicated that he became one of the best through his hard work and through his practice and training. Like, he's not like Anakin, who came out the gate and was already one of the best at everything that he did. Obi-Wan had to work for it.
Which must have been very infuriating to watch happen. Like, he didn't want to train him, he didn't want to take care of him, and then he gets stuck with this kid, and the kid surpasses him in abilities. Like, that would be fucking frustrating. And he still took it in his stride. Yeah. Like, he was never not proud.
Jealousy's not the Jedi way.
Alright, so he was your what?
He was my number 4.
Okay.
Alright.
He was my number 6.
Yeah, so we're going to skip to my number 6, who is Mace Windu.
No, he's not on my list.
Not even on your list. Wow.
Fuck him.
What do you have against Mace Windu?
Say what you like about him. Say what you like about
Mace Windu is one of the most powerful users of the Force to ever do it. So, not only, like, first of all, I want to say, yes, Mace Windu is he exemplifies everything that is wrong with the Jedi Order by the end, and he's partially or primarily the reason they sort of lost their way. And I don't know if this is, like, super, like, the canon reason, but, he apparently channels his inner darkness to have, equal power of the dark and light side, and that's supposedly why he has a purple lightsaber, even though we all know the real reason already. But what is canon is the fact that he created his own fighting style. It's called, like, Vapid or something like that, in order to use his lightsaber in unique ways. And to be so, like, physically talented and, like, intelligent enough to literally create your own martial art, basically, that's just incredible.
I mean, I'm not arguing that he's not talented or that he's not gifted or anything like that. I'm arguing that he was a fucking bastard. Like, the way... It's his distrust for Anakin. He didn't want him there. He never trusted him, never let him in, didn't want him to have a seat on the council. And I know that there were multiple other people that raised concerns, not just him. But it is literally his fault that Anakin fully surrendered to the dark side. It is his fault that he was going to strike down Palpatine in front of Anakin after preaching for so many years, we don't kill, we don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and then he's about to fucking do it, and he's like, well, that's different, I can do it, and Anakin's like, no, bitch, like, what the fuck? And if that scene had played out differently, if he had, sent Anakin somewhere instead of just saying, sit here and do nothing and wait for me to come back, of course, you know this kid so fucking well, you know he's not going to listen to you. You know he hasn't listened to you for 20 years, and why would today be any different?
And plus, Anakin probably would have sided with you if you had just,
told him.
I was going to say if you had just arrested Palpatine, but, Palpatine was stronger than everyone in that room, so I don't think he could have.
No,
That's the thing. Anakin would have never understood that Windu was right. They could not let him leave there alive. I
100% agree, but what I'm saying is, he should have sent Anakin somewhere to do something, not kept him, he's not going to wait.
Yeah.
I fully agree that they should have killed Palpatine, but they needed to take stronger people than who he brought, for one. And for two, why he should have brought Yoda with him to go confront Palpatine. He should have waited for Obi-Wan to come back and taken Obi-Wan with him. There are so many better people he should have brought to be more prepared for that fight. He didn't stand a chance. And honestly, it's arrogance that, he was the strongest of the people that he brought.
Yeah.
And as soon as Anakin walked in the room, he should have one-shot him. Why are you sitting here talking about it? If you're gonna go there to murder somebody, get it over with, dude. Why are you sitting there he has to pay? No, run him through with your lightsaber and then discuss why you did it.
Yeah.
Let's get this show on the road and not give him a chance to argue about it or debate with you or try to reason with you.
Well, it doesn't matter now. Because now he's dead. All right. Let's move on to your number 5.
My number 5 was Maul.
Oh, okay. Cool. So what was your number 4?
My number 4 is Padme.
All right. And my number 5 was Captain Rex. We also already discussed that. So you said your number 4 is Padme?
Yes.
All right.
My number 4 is Padme. She's one of my favorite fictional women of all time. She was never a hindrance to the plot. They never, they would make her the damsel in distress, especially in the Clone Wars series of getting kidnapped, but she was never actually a damsel in distress. She never stayed tied up. She never stayed kidnapped. She immediately always got out of it, talked her way out of it, climbed her way out of it, did something to get herself out of the situation, and then call for help. She never tried to take anything fully on. She was never afraid to call for help, and I love that they never made that a weakness. You can't fight someone who can wield fucking magic air. Of course you need to call your boyfriend who can help you. And they never made her weak because of that. It was always yeah, of course she's gonna get somebody who can come one-shot these bitches so we can get the show on the road.
Yeah. And
she never took Anakin's power as an offensive thing to her, which a lot of female fictional characters do.
She is a prime example of a strong and independent woman that isn't too prideful,
Yeah. And, she also understood that their duties, and in fact, she would argue with Anakin that their duties were more important than their relationship some of the time, which I really liked because she took pride in what she was doing apart from him. He wasn't her identity. She was already her.
Yeah.
And then when they came together, they loved each other. But, she was at the end of the day, I'm going to do my shit, and you can either help me, watch me, or get out of the way.
Yeah.
And she never let him tell her she couldn't do something, but he also rarely told her she couldn't do anything. He was like, yeah, she's not going to listen to me, so...
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just going to protect her the best I can.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Padme did not make my list.
I'm not surprised she didn't make your list. You like a lot of other people way more.
You said that was your number 4, right?
That was my number 4.
My number 4 was Obi-Wan, who we already discussed. So let's move on to the top 3.
All right. We've been doing mine first for all of them. Do you want to keep doing that, or do you want to say your third?
No, we're just alternating still. We can go with your number 3.
All right. My number 3 is Ben Solo / Kylo Ren. I think they count as the same. They count as the same character.
Okay, yeah, they count as the same. They count as the same character because
he doesn't fully ever give himself to the dark side.
Exactly, and yeah, well, you can go ahead.
He's not on your list. He's not on your top 3.
I have Kylo Ren in my honorable mentions.
Okay.
I think he had the potential to be an amazing character, and I'll leave it there. You go ahead.
We were robbed. I was robbed. We were all robbed. Everyone was robbed. Where is the Adam Driver, Kylo Ren, Knights of Ren series? They fumbled the bag so fucking hard. He was such a fascinating character. He had the potential to be such a strong character if they had just written him well. If the writers and the director weren't just, like, absolute shit at their jobs when they came out to do the prequels. And, like, if you listen to Adam Driver talk about the way he was pitched the character, about how you were going to be meeting this character that was at the complete opposite end of how you met Anakin, and that it was going to be how it was going to be the reverse plot of he's struggling with the dark side, he can't grasp the dark side, he's constantly being pulled back to the light, and then throughout the series of the movies he was going to come back willingly to the light. It's just so heartbreaking that they did such poor execution of that. Adam Driver did the best with what he had. I love the character. Adam Driver's Ben/Kylo Ren was definitely written for the dark romance girlies, the enemies to lovers fans, and I will die on that hill. Like, what was the line? You're nothing. You have no place in the story, but not to me. Like, that line was written out of a dark romance book.
Yeah, for sure.
My voice is going out so hard. And don't get me started with Rey not taking his fucking hand. Like, how did you not take his hand before you finished that sentence? She could have fixed him in that moment by just giving him the validation that his own uncle tried to murder him because he didn't trust him. So by her just being one of the only people that, wasn't Snoke, that was willing to trust him, she could have, as not a woman to fix the man, but she literally could have helped him pull him out. Like, he was never fully in the dark side, and he just needed someone to show him, hey, you're not as bad as everyone thinks you are. Come over here for a little bit. And, like, she could have taken his hand, and not only do I think it would have made her a more interesting character by, use and manipulate. Like, honestly, she could have just taken his hand and not only brought him back to the light, but also taken that bit of control that she would have gained by being at his side and used that to help the Resistance at that point, or the Rebellion?
Pretty sure it's the Resistance in the sequel trilogy. Okay,
so she could have used that bit of power that she would have gained to help the Resistance. She could have, wielded that power in a positive way, but instead she viewed it as like, oh, if I take his hand, I'm going to have to go to the dark side and be evil. Like, no, that's not. He said he wanted to get rid of the Jedi and get rid of the Sith and start new. And, like, yeah, getting rid of the good sounds bad, but he also, like, you're missing the part where he wanted to get rid of the big bads, too.
Yeah.
He wanted to take down the evil. He wanted to, honestly, it sounds like he just wanted to be neutral.
He wanted to finish what Darth Vader started and bring balance to the Force and get rid of both sides.
Okay, well, you know what? Would that have been so bad? I was going to say, would that have been so bad?
No, that's a great idea. It's a good concept that was terribly and horribly executed. And honestly, the sequel trilogy would be borderline unwatchable if he wasn't in them.
Yeah. Like, it just, I understand that's poetic that he died saving her, which is what Anakin wanted to be able to do for Padme. And so, in a way, he was able to finish what his grandfather started. And, like, you can look at it through that lens, and it makes it a little bit more bearable that it happened that way. But Star Wars needs to realize there's other way to redeem people than fucking killing them.
Yeah.
Like, there's other ways to give people redemption, or you could have let him grovel. He could have asked for forgiveness. Someone could try that once in a while. They don't always have to die, self-sacrifice. But, I digress. So who's your number 3?
So, number 3 on my list is Anakin Skywalker.
Okay.
All right. I'm assuming he's higher on your list?
Yes, he is higher on my list.
So, I mean, talk about a character that is so likable and charismatic and just, like, throughout the entire, I'm speaking specifically about Clone Wars Anakin. He's just someone that is always willing to do what he believes is the right thing to do, regardless of what everyone else thinks about it. And that's just something I respect so much about him. And he's one of the first people you see humanize the clones as well.
Yeah.
Like, he treats each one as an individual person, and he genuinely has a lot of respect for every single person as an individual. And it's just, like, Anakin as a person, you can tell he, throughout the prequel trilogy and the Clone Wars series especially, you can watch him grow at, not necessarily into a less arrogant version, because he's definitely still arrogant the entire time, but he's definitely more of, like, I'd say,
understanding?
Yeah. He definitely, he treats people with respect, and I really respect that he always does what he believes is the right thing, even though sometimes it isn't.
Yeah. He definitely has, he blindly does whatever he thinks is best.
Yeah.
Do you want me to talk about it now, or do we wait till he gets higher on my list?
We'll move on to your number 2, and then we'll talk about, you can talk about Anakin when we get to him on your list.
Okay.
So who's your number 2?
My number 2 is Ahsoka.
Oh, really?
Ahsoka is my baby. It was really hard to put her or, obviously if this is my number 2, Anakin's still on my list, we know Anakin's my number 1.
Yeah.
It was really hard to choose between putting her or him at my number 1. Mm-hmm. But Ahsoka won at spot number 2.
Ahsoka is on my list as well. I'm not going to tell you where yet.
Oh, okay. Ahsoka, it hurts my heart almost as much as Anakin because she literally lost everyone and she got so attached to the clones specifically from being such a kid, and to learn how to shoulder all that loss as I think she was 12 when she became his Padawan.
Yeah. So
to learn how to shoulder all that loss at such a young age when she's supposed to be a peacekeeper, and she even says, she has that line in Clone Wars where it's like, ever since I was a Padawan, I've been told that I'm supposed to be keepers of the peace, but all I've ever been is a soldier. And it's just so depressing, and it's so dark what they took the younglings and, the Padawans and turned them into, because all they did was kill and destroy. That was their whole thing throughout that whole war.
Yeah.
And she's still, even after going through everything she's gone through, she's one of the few that never considers going to the dark side. She never grapples with which is the right side to be on. She follows Anakin to a point, but she's never afraid, even though he is her master or whatever, she's never afraid to call him out and say, we shouldn't be doing this, or I think this is a better way. She's one of the few, especially when she was introduced in the Clone Wars series, she's one of the few kid characters in a series that is never ever a hindrance to the plot.
Yeah.
She is, again, just like Padme, sometimes she is a damsel in distress, sometimes she is kidnapped, but she's never actually a damsel in distress. She never just takes it lying down. She always gets up and figures her own way out of it and figures out how to ask for help, how to get a call out to help, how to, escape. One of the best, episodes, in my opinion, was, I think it was a Tales of the Jedi episode of when Anakin is training her for Order 66. And obviously she doesn't know that at the time, and he doesn't even know it at the time. But that's just such, that episode is just so fucking sad, because if it wasn't for that, if it wasn't for Anakin being so hard on her, and if it wasn't for her being willing to take it and, getting back up and saying, I want to learn, I want to be able to overcome this challenge, every single, no matter what she faces, that's always Ahsoka's thing. She's gonna get back up and she's gonna figure out how to do it, even if it's a different way. And if it wasn't for that, she would have died.
Yeah,
they would have fucked her up on that ship. And just, even after all that, she still takes on trying to train Sabine, even though it's difficult for her and she doesn't really want to be doing it because, she's not, all her reasons that were explained in the Ahsoka series. But it's just, she always tries again, and I love Ahsoka. I wish we got more scenes of Ariana Greenblatt as her, in flashback form in the Ahsoka series. Rosario Dawson, by far, best casting choice ever. She did perfect. But I loved, the flashback scene we got of Ariana's Ahsoka with Hayden's. Can we just get a one-shot movie of just, one single adventure with,
just that one episode of Clone Wars with all the, all the main people into live action? Yeah,
exactly. Can I just get one Clone Wars reenactment? Just one plot line, just so I can have a movie to look to where it's, Ariana, Hayden, Ewan. Who is the guy who plays the clones? I need Rex there.
Tamara Morrison?
Yeah, Tamara Morrison. I need all of them to get together. Yeah. Just, I don't even give a shit what the plot is. Just put them all in something in those characters together so I can have that to look back on.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Alright, so who is your number 2?
My number 2 is the greatest villain in any fictional story to have ever lived, Darth Vader.
Oh, he's your number 2? I thought he was your number 1.
No, he's my number 2.
Okay.
I just like the character at my number 1 a little bit more. As you can probably already imagine, Ahsoka is my number 1.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And the thing is with Darth Vader is, he is such a menacing presence,
Yeah, for sure.
And all games and books and comics and movies and shows, like every single time he's on screen, you can feel the fear in every character nearby.
Yeah.
You can see how you can feel his presence on the screen at any time he is there, and every time he's on screen, it's always one of the best parts of whatever content you're consuming.
You're talking about the end scene of Rogue, aren't you?
Oh, specifically Rogue One. Yeah, that's what makes that movie worth watching, is that Rogue One scene. But that's not even just that. Even I know it's not technically it's not technically canon, but in The Force Unleashed, when he is when he has Starkiller as his Padawan, like in that game, he's so funny, and it's just like, I can't think of many fictional characters, like, as someone that appreciates a good villain, I can't think of many fictional characters that are as good as Darth Vader.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I believe objectively that Darth Vader is one of, like, definitely the top 3 best villains of all time.
I agree.
Best villains of all time. He's not in my top 10.
He's probably he's probably the most iconic movie villain of all time. I mean,
I'd agree.
There's probably not. I'd say most people in the world probably know who Darth Vader is.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, they literally used him as inspiration for Toy Story.
Yeah.
I am your father. Buzz Lightyear just fucking letting go and falling down the elevator.
Do you know what Buzz Lightyear's father's name was?
No. Oh yeah, it was Zurg.
Zurg, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Who is you said your number 2 is Anakin, right?
No, number 1 is Anakin.
Okay, your number 2 was Ahsoka. Yeah, I remember. Okay. So yeah, do you want to talk about your number 1? We'll talk about Anakin, and then I will move on to why Ahsoka's at my number 1 spot.
Sure. So Anakin, he is, I would argue, the most tortured soul in cinema. Like, Anakin Skywalker just got the absolute shit kicked out of him from day one. He was born a child fucking slave. And you know what? You would think that there was nowhere else for him to go down. But no, life just kept fucking that poor kid up. And when I think of Anakin Skywalker, I think of that poor tortured kid. Like, the poor tortured kid that's just doing his fucking best, working as, like, what? He was, like, 5 or 6? Like, no, he was supposed to be older than that. I think he was supposed to be 10. He looked like he was 6. The little kid that played him was very small. But he just, like...
Shout out Jake Lloyd.
Like, he just got fucked up from the get. Like, he never stood a chance. And then, these guys show up and they're like, hey, we're gonna buy you, but you gotta leave your mom. Like, as a child, think of how fucking mentally fucking that situation was.
Yeah.
And then he leaves there. He has to leave his mom behind. He goes off the train in the way of the Jedi, and all of a sudden he goes from, the only thing he had in his life was loving his mom and taking care of his mom and, like, doing the best he could as a child, to, you actually have to stop loving, thinking about, and missing your mom.
Yeah.
So, the only person who's ever actually been kind to you, aside from us right now, you gotta just let that go. You know that other guy who wanted to actually help you and who actually, like, paid for you? Think of how fucked up that is. The guy who bought you, yeah, he's dead in front of you right now, so, oops, let's keep it moving. Clearly, we're great at protecting people. And then he leaves his mom behind. He goes to learn the way of the Jedi. He gets there. Nobody trusts him right off the bat. None of the other council fucking want him there, aside from, Obi-Wan being like, no, I'm gonna train him because this is what Qui-Gon wanted. And it's just like, one of the only people who acted like they trusted him right off the bat, the only person who gave him immediate praise, really, aside from, like, Qui-Gon Jinn and then Obi-Wan trying to fill his shoes, was fucking pedo Palpatine. Forget evil. I want to go right on to calling Palpatine just absolutely vile. He is one of the most vile people in cinema. Palpatine is just the creepiest, moaning, grossest, creepy fucking dude. Like, he keeps pictures in his basement. Like, he keeps pictures of fucking Anakin in his basement. He has the creepiest attachment to him, and so many people are like, oh, it's because of the power. No, I think he just literally had just a fucking obsession.
He was trying to bring the prophecy to life.
No, he's a fucking pedo. He was.
It certainly seemed that way.
Yes, all the moaning all the time. And again, that's one of the only people, he has Obi-Wan. Yes, Obi-Wan, I'm not going to discount the relationship him and Anakin had as brothers. But when you have one person on your side and then you turn to this group of people that are higher up than you, that you're striving and keep being told that you're supposed to look to and want to become and want to have a place at their table, and they're just being like, actually, we don't trust them. Alright, honestly, it's the fucking council's fault that Anakin turned to the dark side. I would wholeheartedly blame the lack of, like, I don't know if diligence is the word I'm looking for, but the lack of responsibility that they took over Anakin and over Anakin's training. Like, they knew that Palpatine had this obsession with him right off the bat. It was never hidden. It was never a secret. It was always blatantly in your face that Palpatine had this obsession with Anakin. And instead of protecting Anakin from him, instead of, you know, doing the best they could for him as a kid in this world, they just were like, you know what? We can use that to know what the Emperor's thinking. We can use this kid to get in with like the Emperor, to like have this, like, you know, insider scoop, basically. Like, they wanted to use Anakin as the mole, but the thing is, Anakin was such an impressionable kid that he didn't stand a fucking chance at also not being manipulated. And so he was manipulated by both sides, and of course, at the end of the day, he's gonna go to the one that's offering him the thing that he wants most, which is to keep the person that he loves alive. Like, there was never a scenario in which Anakin wasn't going to try to choose to do the thing that would keep Padme alive. She was the most important person in the entire galaxy to him. Mm-hmm. And the fact that, you know, the other ones didn't even fucking know about it didn't help.
He was literally the only person in Anakin's life that was like, he could talk to about that kind of stuff without being told, no, you can't do that.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, honestly, you have to give it to the level of manipulation that Palpatine was able to pull off, because, you know, obviously he could see what Anakin really wanted, and he just used it, and Anakin didn't stand a fucking chance. He didn't stand a fucking chance. Yeah. And honestly, if I lived the life of Anakin Skywalker, and I fucking woke up in the Vader suit being told that I murdered the love of my life, of course I'm gonna become the worst fucking menace in all of everything. Yeah. What else is there to do?
Facts.
Like, other than take a long dive off a short pier, like, the fuck else is there to do? And there's, like, I know it's written in, like, the novelizations that Palpatine, he kept something attached to Vader that kept him on a leash. It was something like he would zap him, or he could control him in some way.
I mean, the Force lightning itself, he intentionally, from what I know, he intentionally made the suit in a way that was, like, uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. So that he would be in constant pain, basically. Yeah. And that would always keep him in check. I don't know how true that is, but I mean, Palpatine was already the most powerful Force user in existence, so it's not like he would need help keeping Anakin in line. I mean, we watched this dude whip Darth Maul and Savage Opress, like, single-handedly.
Yeah, that's fair. But it's just depressing. Anakin makes me sad. I love him. He needed to be protected. He needed help, and he didn't get that. And the fact that he fucking... my biggest issue and my biggest gripe... I know this is Vader, not Anakin, but my biggest gripe is, like, when you look at the character as a whole, when you look at him as one, when you look at Anakin's descent to the dark side and becoming Vader, and then his life as Vader, even when that motherfucker died, self-sacrificed like they love to do... They cheapened it with the prequels, or with the sequels.
With the sequels, yeah, I agree.
They completely ripped away Anakin's last act of goodness. Like, he came back to being Anakin with Luke whenever he self-sacrificed in order to save Luke. That was Anakin, that wasn't Vader. And they completely robbed him of, like, the sacrifice he made by having Palpatine fucking come back as a zombie fucking bullshit, whatever it was that they tried to make him be in the sequels, which is just, that's one of the many things I hate about the fucking sequels. I love Adam Driver.
Never run out of reasons to hate the sequels.
Alright, so your number one?
My number one is Ahsoka, as previously discussed. I mean, the reason I have Ahsoka at number one, you know, Clone Wars original character, in my opinion, Ahsoka is what the Jedi Order should have been. And just as Mace Windu is representative of everything wrong with the Jedi at that time period, Ahsoka, especially Ahsoka in Rebels, like post Jedi banishment or whatever you want to call it, Ahsoka, she is more of a Jedi than any of those guys ever were. And in the terms of how she carries herself and her beliefs and everything. Absolutely. And it's just like, she's also is one of those characters that is always going to fight for what is the right thing to do no matter what. And I appreciate that. And also, like, her her fighting style is so unique
I love
to
the
a lot of the
sabers.
other characters that we see in Star Wars with the dual bladed, backwards sabers. Like watching her fight, especially in Clone Wars, as I mentioned earlier, the Darth Maul the fight between Darth Maul and Ahsoka, and during the Siege of Mandalore, in my opinion, is one of, if not the best lightsaber battle that we see in the entire series. And I think, Siege of Mandalore is peak television.
You're lucky Anakin didn't show up. The way you're fighting, you wouldn't have lasted long. Those are my favorite episodes. Those are the episodes, the Siege of Mandalore plotline are the episodes that I will go back and watch for a good time, except I will end it before the clones try to fuck her up.
The Order 66 scene with all the clones wearing her face paint, dude, it's heartbreaking.
That's the most fucked up thing, and the tear that falls from Rex's eye whenever she takes off his helmet, she's like, those are good men down there. They might be prepared to die, but I'm not going to be the one that kills them.
Exactly.
Fuck me up!
That line too. I
can quote Ahsoka all day. I can quote Ahsoka lines all day long. I love her so much.
Like, no matter what, no matter the circumstances, refuses to go against what she believes, and I respect the hell out of that. And I also love that the line from Rebels, the "I'm no Jedi." Mm-hmm. That was just badass.
Yeah, I will avenge his death. Revenge is not the Jedi way. I'm no Jedi. That line between Vader, when she blacks out, once she has the realization that not only is Anakin alive, but Anakin is Vader, and Filoni explained it as like she could not grapple with the fact that her friend could become this thing, that she literally blacks out because she can't wrap her brain around the person she cares for so much having turned so evil. That's just so fucking sad. My biggest heartbreaking thing with Ahsoka is just like, from a child, once again, just like Anakin, they share that thing of like they're thrust in somebody else's fight, in somebody else's war that they never signed up for. And after everything happens, after Order 66, she goes the complete opposite route. She doesn't want revenge. She doesn't want to do anything like that. She just wants to go live a life of peace. She wants to go do the best she can. And she goes to live on that fucking farm planet, right? And she's farming until that little shit fucker sells her out and fucking calls the Inquisitors like, are we gonna be rewarded? And then the Inquisitor's like, the fuck do you think is gonna happen right now? Everything is burnt to the ground.
Yeah.
What do you think is gonna happen? And then she shows up and she just soloed that bastard. She soloed that Inquisitor, like, with ease. And then she's like, well, thrust back into another war. Time to go fuck shit up again. Because now, like, every time a situation is brought to her, she's like, well, gotta handle this. Like, she is incapable of walking away when she sees it happening.
Yeah.
There's no turning a blind eye for Ahsoka.
Yeah, absolutely. She's on the top of my list for good reason.
Yeah, for sure. I'm surprised that she's your number one. I would have thought Vader would be your number one.
I thought Ahsoka was going to be your number one, too.
She almost was, but Anakin's slightly more tortured, so I had to give it to
him. Well, Ahsoka's a better character. All right.
Didn't stand a chance.
That's going to be about all we got for you guys today. If you guys like that, please, if you're watching on YouTube, leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and leave your top 10 list down in the comments. I'd like to see what you guys think about our lists. If you're watching, if you're listening, sorry, leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or a like on Spotify, and make sure you hit that follow button if you want to see some more. All right, you got any closing words for our audience?
the only thing that came to mind was fuck bitches get money.
Yeah, all right. Take that as a beautiful life lesson for you all. Fuck bitches, get money, and have a great night.